Okay, so we are in the middle of chapter 26 regarding the trait of Kedusha. So we were talking about what the essence of this Kedusha is, right? How it's a gift, right? How we understand, because it becomes the total transformation of a person transforming from a physical being into a spiritual being, right? And as a result, he's really completely detached from this world, and he lives in a different reality whatsoever. So it's not even, it's not like a linear thing. I mean, until now the progression was maybe not even linear, but it was mostly linear. And now all of a sudden he reaches a certain madriga and he gets sucked in, right? Then he told us, and that's why he told us the difference between a tohar, a pure person, and a kodesh, and a holy person, right? Where a pure person, the gashmias, the experiences that he has, right? They're no longer, they've been completely removed from any kind of shemetz, any remnant, any impurity of negativity, of ra, that could possibly have been left within, been purified completely. However, it's still a physical experience.
Right, that's a paradox.
Okay,
No?
so what?
That sounds like a paradox.
That what?
A contradiction, no? It's still physical, but it's completely spiritual?
No, I didn't say it's spiritual. It's just, it's been removed from any ra, from any negative, right? So that means that if there's evil, right? There's good, and then there is neutral. So at that point, it's neutral, right? So it's neutral, but it's still a physical experience. So, and that's what he's saying. He's saying it's a physical experience, and it's not necessarily dragging him down completely, but at the same time, it would have been better without it, right? He's not gaining anything from this experience. On the other hand, a person who is Kodesh, then even the physical actions that he's doing are no longer physical, right? Because again, the way I could imagine it is that right, we look at a cup of coffee, right? It's a physical thing. It's a coffee and a cup and whatever. But at the same time, it's also an abstract idea. There's ideas behind this coffee. The reason why this coffee exists is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought it into the world, because it represented some expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that was needed in this world. And so a person who lives in the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So then this coffee is no longer a coffee. It's another expression of Hashem. And so he only sees and he only experiences ruchnias. He doesn't experience gashmias at all, right? So for him, and he's going to speak this out now, for him, a coffee and achilas matzah on Pesach is essentially the same thing. It's all avodas Hashem. So you can't say that, it would have been better if you wouldn't be eating matzah on Pesach. That's not true. Matzah on Pesach is your ticket to Olam Haba, right? On the other hand, for a Tahar, his physical experience is not his ticket to Olam Haba. It's just it enables him to continue living, and you're right, it buys him ability to then continue doing mitzvahs. But that experience in itself is not an Olam Haba experience. Mashenkin a Kodesh, every experience that he has no experience that's not avodas Hashem. There's no divrei rishus, so to speak. Everything becomes avodas Hashem. Okay, so let's see. V'hinei ish kazeh, so such a man, who atzmai nechshav kamishkan kamikdash kamizbeach. He is considered, he himself becomes a mishkan, a mikdash, and a mizbeach. Right. So again, so we spoke out from Rabbi Sarner last time that he really is the mizbeach, but he could be mizbeach in two forms: in mishkan and in the mikdash. Mishkan is more aroi, like temporary. Right? Mikdash is much more permanent and much more set and kavua. He points out another difference. So that's what he wants to say. Then, okay, let's see. And like our sages say, our forefathers are the Merkava. They are the chariot. Again, just speaking out, that what's the idea of a chariot? And I think we mentioned this another time, I don't remember when, but what's the idea of a chariot? Why is chariot the symbol of Hashem's Kedusha? So chariot is a royal vehicle. That's what a chariot is. Merkava is a tank, an Israeli tank, but it's a royal vehicle. What's the purpose of a royal vehicle? So even when you are leaving the palace is a place where Kulei Omer Kavod, everything says, this is the king's palace, this is the king's domain, this is the king's honor. Again, this is not me talking, this is the Shiva Zatzal of Yitzchak Hutner, Bachad Yitzchak. So the palace is a place of honor of a king. When a king goes out, he's not in a place of his honor. So how do you bottle his honor in a place where he's not there, right? So the answer is you take a royal chariot, and now you got the honor with him, right? So that's why the Merkava represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Kedusha. In other words, Hashem doesn't belong in this world. Like we're saying, he's not visible in this world, right? He's hidden from this world. The chariot is the thing that carries Hashem's presence, Hashem's honor into this world. So Oveis Ein Merkava, the Oveis, they become the chariot of Hashem's Kedusha in this world, and to bring out Hashem's Kedusha in a place where it doesn't seem to belong. It doesn't seem to be like Hashem's palace, right? So now we have Oveis Ein Merkava. The forefathers are like the chariot. The Cheinomra, and they also said Hatzadikim Ein Merkava, that all tzadikim really are the Merkava. Right? So again, Rav Sarna points out, why do you need two? Because there are two levels. There are some tzaddikim, like the Oveis, they become the Mikdash. In other words, their level of Kedusha is so strong, it's like on a permanent basis. Mashenkin, some tzaddikim are like the Mishkan, their Kedusha is on a lower darga. He also points out, I have a hard time, I hear, and I don't know if I fully internalize this, he points out that if you reach, there's also qualitative difference between the Mikdash level of Kedusha and the Mishkan level of Kedusha. The Mishkan level of Kedusha, now we're going to see again, we said that when you eat, when you drink coffee, right, for a tzaddik, if he feels he needs it, then whatever. So when he drinks coffee, he's really doing achilas matzah, right? But how is that? So if you're on the level of the Mishkan, you can only be zoicha to such an experience if you actually have direct intent. You look at this coffee and you realize you have the kavonos, and you've meditated on it and you've appreciated from its intellectual perspective, and then you have this avodah. Mashiach, when you're on the level of a mikdash, then it's even subconscious, meaning it's automatic. The Kedusha is so permanently attached to you that you do not have to have that intentionality in order to achieve this experience. And his raya his proof is that, remember we started talking about how amazing the correspondence, the symmetry, symmetry in the Sefer between the beginning and the end. How with Kedusha, this chapter, which is the last chapter, really mimics all the things that he said in the beginning of the Sefer. Right? So in the beginning of the Sefer, he told us that Yaakov, one of the examples that he gave, that how the world rises up, right, is not elevated. The world is elevated when it's used by a tzaddik. The example was when Yaakov Avinu wanted to lay down, the stones were arguing that a tzaddik should put the head down on me, because each stone wanted to be elevated by the tzaddik, right? So over there, he's just making an assumption that Yaakov Avinu was not having a whole intellectual, meditative experience. He wanted to go to sleep, so he needed to lay his head down somewhere. And so Mele, it was just, okay. So I'm not sure, I am not sure. Who my Rav Chatzkel Sarna was a gadol, and I'm not aware on what you call it. But I'm not sure that is the case.
Meaning he'll lay down and.
Meaning I don't believe. First of all, I don't know if somebody who's kodesh b'kedushas boyrei right? Somebody who's been sanctified by the holiness of his Creator, I think all of his experiences become quote unquote meditative, intellectual. There's no like, I'm just going to put my head down. It's you live. If we're right that this is a whole different, what's the word, experience, a whole different. You're a different. It's a whole different enlightenment. You're a different being. You're a malach. It's a so you're putting your head down on a random. It's just a difference. A whole. We don't know. I mean, we don't know.
Maybe that explains to him. It was so normal that.
I don't think so.
His world.
Plus, there are midrashim how the stones there were 12, right, and then they became one.
Right. Whatever
so
that means.
So there were. I'm just saying. So Yaakov saw, for Yaakov, those stones had symbolic meanings for his kids, and and shvatim, and like there was nothing unintellectual about that experience. It wasn't just random stones that he put his head down. So I'm not sure. Okay, this is not for us anyways. Not Gela Maisa, but okay, let's keep going. So the Shechina really rests on them. Just like it was Shora in the Mikdash. And as a result, any food they eat, korban is like a korban that goes up on the fires of the Mizbeach. Certainly, certainly that anything that goes up on the Mizbeach was elevated, because they were brought before the Shechina. Not only that, there was such a great elevation when something was brought on the Mizbeach, that the entire species was blessed in the entire world. And our sages said, they said in the Midrash, so therefore any food and drink that this holy man eats, it's an elevation for that food and for that drink, like it's brought on the Mizbeach Mamash. Okay. Maybe this is new. So this we got up here last time. This is something new. Anybody who brings a present to a Talmud Chacham, right? Anybody who brings a present to Talmud Chacham, kilu hikriv bikurim. It's as if he brings the first fruit, right? So again, this is where Shtigla Chasidus is where if we don't have our own ability to reach the level of Kedusha, then we can sort of, by proxy or in virtue, we can accomplish that experience if we are connected to a tzaddik of this caliber, right? So, which is what the Hasidim do. Their Rebbe is supposed to be this, right? And our too, in some degree, we need those connections. We need to be connected to a Godel and to bring a present to a Godel, to do something nice for a Godel, to be connected, so that there is that some intellectual bond with the Godel. And similarly, it said, fill the throats of Talmidei Chachamim with wine in place of Nisachim. Right? So when the Talmidei Chachamim they drink wine, it's like the Nisachim that are brought on the Mizbeach. Right, now he clarifies. Obviously, this is not saying that Talmidei Chachamim are supposed to be thirsty after food and drink, right? In other words, it says fill their throats. I mean, it's a guzma. It is a hyperbole. It's an exaggeration to show how kind of in a very physical sense, right? Using very physical expressions to explain that their very physical acts are in reality not physical at all. Chas v'sholom. V'sheimal groinum kamalit asagar geran. Right? That we're not going to fill their throats to such a degree that as somebody who's a glutton. Right? Gargaran as a glutton. Ela ha'inyan hush lefia kavona shezacharti. But rather, the concept here is, as I explained, ki ha'talmidei chachamim ha'kadoshim b'derkeichem, talmidei chachamim that are sanctified in their ways, u'b'chol ma'aseim, and in all their deeds, hinehem mamish k'mikdash u'k'mizbeach. They're like the mikdash and the mizbeach, v'pnei sha'ashchina shoyre aleim k'mo she'oisa shoyre l'mikdash mamish. Okay? V'hinei ha'nikrav lehem. So therefore, anything that's brought to them, k'nikrav al gabi ha'mizbeach, is like it's brought on the mizbeach, umilui groinam, and filling their throats, tachas milui hasafolim, is exactly parallel to the filling of the safolim, of the pipes that are on the mizbeach, right?
Okay.
Now, I just want to remember that the Ran, I don't remember when we discussed this, but the Ran in Drasha, I think 8, in Drasha Saran, talks about why Moshe Rabbeinu had to bring the staff to hit the, or not to hit the rock, to talk to the rock, right? What's the point of bringing the staff if you're not going to use it, right? If the whole, right, if he was punished for hitting the rock when he was supposed to talk to us, why bring the rock? You're confusing him, right? So the answer that he gives is that anything that's sanctified by Kedusha of Hashem, and that staff was sanctified by the Kedusha of Hashem because it was there by the snet, was in all these places, right? So this thing was in such close proximity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's immersed in Kedusha. So anything that's immersed in Kedusha, just being in its proximity, elevates things that are around it. So, right, in other words, it brings that spirituality to the physical domain. Right? Just like he was saying, just like a Beis HaMikdash. Why is a Beis HaMikdash holier than any other place in the world? Because Hashem rested His presence on it. So therefore, when you go there and you pray there, it's a different experience. So then, similarly, he says a tzaddik, right, who basically dedicated his whole life to avodas Hashem, and everything he did, his whole body basically became permeated with kedusha. Then he is like a mikdash and like a mizbeach. He is permeated with kedusha. And then he says, which is why even after the tzaddik dies, right? In other words, the only thing that remains is that staff, that stick, right? So even after the tzaddik dies, his body in the kever still retains some element of that kedusha, which is why he explains why we daven by kivrei tzaddikim, because we're kind of like, even though he's not alive, so he's no longer like the mikdash, but he's like the remnant, that shirayim that's still there, which is why we go to daven by kivrei tzaddikim, right? So again, so this is kind of along those lines. Fine. Okay, keep going. Valderech hazeh, and in this way, kol tashmish, any utility, any use, sheishtamshu medivrei ha'olam, that they use from the things in the world, acharei hayosim kvar dvukim l'kedushos yisborach, after this, that they already became dvukim, they're attached to the holiness of Hashem, hine iloi v'isrin hu l'davar hushu, right? It becomes an elevation for that thing. That becomes attachment and as our sages already said, with regards to the stones, right? Omar Rabbi Yitzchak says Melamed, right? So these are the rocks that said Melamed kulam, that they will come gathered. Upon me, the tzaddik should place his head. Right? So again, right? So again, so he's mentioning this story of Yaakov, all right? Exactly the same way he mentioned it in the beginning. Right? Yeah. So again, so this is chapter 1 and chapter 26. They're like mirror image of each other. So again, klolei shel davar, right? Again, if you look over here, I mean, it's almost like parallel. But if you look over here, again, I don't know how your addition, but I want to just read this again. There's much more in the beginning. Like literally the first chapter. After the introduction. So again, if you remember, he talks about what is the responsibility of a person in this world, right? He says, "Lisanig al Hashem." You have to have oining from Hashem, pleasure from Hashem, right? Happiness. And then he says, "V'im tamik oid be'inyan." You see that paragraph? V'im tamik oid be'inyan. If you further deepen in this, go deeper in this idea.
Okay.
You have it? It's like, I don't know, fourth paragraph maybe?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
V'im tamik oid be'inyan, tire, you will see, ki ha'olam nivra l'shimush ha'odam, that the world is created for the utility of man. Amnam, hinehu oimid b'shikul gadol. However, he stands at a great balance. And we saw this paragraph last time. Because if a person goes after the world, right, follows the world, and as a result, he is distanced from his creator. He becomes destroyed. And the world becomes destroyed with him. And if he is master of himself, and he clings to his creator, and he only utilizes the world as a way to help him in the service of God. He is elevated, and the world is elevated with him. Right? And now, so then he says, it's a great elevation for all creations, to be utilized by Odam HaSholim, a perfected man, Hamekudosh b'Kedusha Yisborach, that is sanctified with the Kedusha of Hashem. Behu kinyan Masha Amru Chachameinu Zichron Levrach, and this is what our sages said. Be'inyan ha'or, with regards to the light, Shegonza Kodesh Baruch Hu LaTzadikim, that Hashem hid for tzaddikim, right? The initial light, right? Vayar Lakim Kitov, Hashem saw there was good light, and Rashi says that he saw it was good, so therefore he packed it up for tzaddikim for the future, right? When Hashem saw the light that he hid for tzaddikim, he was happy. Shenema or tzaddikim yismach, the light of tzaddikim, he is happy. With regards to the stones of the place, Shalokach Yaakov, that Yaakov took, Vasomer Rashoisov, Omer B'Yitzchak Melamed Shinskab Sukulam Lamokam Echad V'Hoisok Al Achas Omeres Olay Nech Tzadik Rosh. Right? That's our story here. Now it keeps on going, right? V'Hinei Al Ha'ikar Hazeh Hirunu Zechorim Levrocha B'Midrash Koheles. With regards to this idea, central idea, our sages told us, they said, see the acts of God. Right? What does it mean, see? Who is he talking to? So the Medrash says, when Hashem created the first man, he went around to showed him every tree in the garden. And he says to him, look at my creations. How beautiful and praiseworthy they are. And everything that I created, I created for you. So put your mind that you will not destroy my world. Then he goes, right? So the general, now his summaries of the whole, everything he said till now. The general idea is, the world, the person is not created because of this world. But rather because of his state in the next world. Right? Rather, this world is an intermediary for him to get into Elam Haba, which is the end station. Okay? Now again, switching back.
The last paragraph.
Back to our thing, right? So again, he gives us the rundown in the first chapter, and he gives us klolei shel davar in the summary, right? Over here, same thing. The next paragraph after this discussion is klolei shel davar, right? The general summary is inyan ha-kedusha, the idea of kedusha, hu sheya odom dovek kol kach be'elakav, that a person should be so connected to his God, ad shebeshum ma'aseh asher yaseh, until any action that he does, lo yipared, he cannot be separated, lo yozuz, cannot be budged, mimenu isbarach, from him at all. At sheyoyser yisala advorim agashmim, until to such a degree that the dvorim agashmim are more elevated. Asher yishamshu echad mitashmishov, that are used for his usages, b'mesh shehu mishtamash b'hem, as a result of him using them, more so that he would be what's the opposite of elevation? Going down, whatever. But right, more than that he will go down midvei from his attachment to malosa b'ishtamshum dvarim gashmiyim. Right? So again, it's the same idea, right? There's a tug of war between the physical world and the person. If the person lets the physical world drag him down, so he'll be dragged down, and the world will be dragged down with him. If the person is strong, the world will be pulled up by him. Right? So again, in the beginning of the Sefer, we understood, okay, a person is strong. What does that mean? Okay, he has a taiva. He doesn't fall into his taiva. He's strong. He elevates the world. Now we really see maybe it's a totally different idea. He's saying, what does it mean to really be strong? To really be strong means to reach such a level of kedusha where you cannot possibly budge anymore from the attachment to Hashem. That's what really strong means. Obviously, it's a whole process. Okay, but let's see. He's going to talk about the process again. Va'amnam, right? Va'amnam, however, this could only be b'yois sichloi, his seichel, v'daitoi, kvuim tomid b'gduloso yisborach, are continuously, constantly are set on the greatness of God. V'roim musoi, and his loftiness, v'kdushosoi, and his holiness. At sheyimotzei, until the reality is, kiluhu mischaber l'malachim ha'alyonim, he is attached to the uppermost angels, mamish, oidehu ba'olam hazeh, while he is still in this world. Right? So again, if the klal shel davar in the first chapter was, listen, you really are made for the next world. This world is just an intermediary, right? The ending over here is, no, it's true. I mean, you were made for that world, and this world is just intermediate, but you could be in the next world while still being in this world. That a person cannot accomplish in anything in this matter from his own efforts. He can just initiate and inspire himself and make an effort towards this detachment from physical reality. But that's only if the midos that we discussed till now, Zehirus, Prishus, Tahara, Chasidus, Anova, Yireschet, are already found in him. Right? Then he can then be allowed to make an effort to cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, mitchilas Zehirusvad Yireschet, from the beginning of Zehirus until Yireschet, bezois yover el hakodesh. With this, he can come into the holy. Right? This phrase bezois yover el hakodesh is a phrase from Acharei Mos. Right? When bezois yover el hakodesh is we said with this the Kohen Gadol can enter the holy of holies. So he's poetically, I think it's just poetically, it's a stylistic citation. It's poetically borrowing that phrase. With this, you can enter the holy of holies. With what? With all the midos, that you had until now. V'yatzliach, and then you'll be successful. Sharei im harishonos chaseros mimenu. However, if the previous midos are lacking, right? If anova is lacking, yiras chet is lacking, so then hareu kazar ubalmum. Then he's like a stranger or a balmum.
Meaning it all accumulated.
Right, if you haven't accumulated all of the previous midos, and you're going into what this level of kedusha, which is holy of holies, then it's like the equivalent of a stranger going into the holy of holies. Shenem, our boys, it says, "Beit v'zar lo yikrob." A stranger cannot come close. Right. So in other words, again, we have a tendency, and is that we want to bypass this. Or a lot of us, I don't know, a lot of us, but there are certainly in certain circles of nice, well-meaning Jews, there is a desire. It's a good desire. It's a healthy desire in some ways to bypass all of the hard work and go straight to kedusha, right? And that's zar la'ikrav, and you're a stranger. This is the equivalent of Nadav and Avihu, somewhat equivalent. Nadav and Avihu going too far. Okay. However, after he prepared himself with all of these preparations, if he continues to cling to God with the strength of love, the oitzam ha'ira, and the power of fear, behaskolas gedulosoi, in the enlightenment, right, in the understanding of Hashem's greatness, the oitzam ramusoi, and the, I don't know how to say, but the strength, the power of his loftiness, or the depth, I don't know, okay, whatever. Yafrid atzma min yoneh achomer me'at me'at. He removes himself from aspects of physicality little by little. B'chol puloisav, with all of his actions, u'b'chol tnuoisav, and all of his movements. Yichaven levovoi el matspune ha'histabkus ha'amiti. So everything that he does, every action that he does, he's mechaven into the hidden. Matspune means hidden, the hidden elements of true attachment to God. Ad she'yorah alov ruach memorim, until a ruach, a spirit from above, kind of rests on him. The yashkin haboyre baruch shmo alov, and Hashem rests His name over him. Just like He does for all holy people. Then it becomes like a malach Hashem mamish. And then all of his actions, even the lowly ones and the physical ones, are like karbonos and avodas. Now over here in the art scroll, they bring something in the Cheskel Sarna, which is quite crazy. He says over here that there is so according to Rabbi Cheskel Sarna, there is a shortcut. There's a shortcut to Kedusha. What's the shortcut to Kedusha? Shabbos Kodesh. That on a regular weekday, you have no chance. But on Shabbos, you can skip some levels. Again, a hard time. Okay, but okay.
How do you do that?
Well, right. I mean, saying Shabbos Kodesh, you're right, elevated. I mean, you're in a different. So, meaning the whole idea of Shabbos. I don't know, because he talked about Shabbos before, and he did say that the physical experience of Shabbos was a mitzvah, right? He said the oinig b'hem is mitzvah. The physical experience of Shabbos turns into a mitzvah. In other words, the map of the world, right, which is really that all of humanity is supposed to reach this level of Kedusha, which is the map for the world. It's how should I say it? It's depicted, is expressed through Shabbos, right?
Okay.
And that's why Mizmor Shul Yom HaShabbos, the song of Shabbos, has the song in it, the song title in it, and the Shabbos is the expression of the idealized world, right? Okay, but it's to some degree. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure how far he goes with it. Okay, let's keep going. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. Now, so basically till now, right? If his standard map on every midah is, he tells you what the midah is, what the details of the midah is, how to acquire it, and what are the detractors from it. Now he's basically going into, usually it's done in separate chapters. Over here, Kedusha is one chapter. So you see yourself, what is the way to acquire this midah? Okay? So again, let's say you didn't look ahead. And if I would tell you, what do you think is the way to acquire the midah of Kedusha? What would you say? I would have said meditation on God's glory, learning Kabbalah, being, right? That's what I would focus on. He says that too, but his focus is a little bit differently. He says, an abundance of separation, right? In other words, if until now, well, maybe again, probably my bias is I see Chassidus as being that ikar of coming closer to Hashem, right? To me, Chassidus is that goal where he becomes a chassid, and that's really. And he's saying, yeah, it's true, but the ikar, meaning, right? Again, remember we discussed this back then by Chassidus. So there's always two aspects to avoid: the sur meira, remove yourself from evil, and asay tov, and then do good. Yeah. So which one is the ikar? So I'm always leaning towards asay tov, okay, and sur meira, but he's focusing more now on the negative. The key is really, at the end of the day, it's all about stripping away the gashmias. Stripping away the gashmias, you'll see the ruchnias, right? So that's what, because the gashmias is your what's the word?
Barrier.
It's your barrier, right? It's your barrier. You got to break through the barrier. So that's what he's saying. So you see yourself. I don't know if I see myself, but that's what he says. He says you see yourself through the abundance of separateness. And then he says an intense delving on analysis of the hidden aspects of Hashem's hashgacha, umatzpunei habriya, and the secrets of the creation. Right. So the second part is about meditation and understanding the secrets of creation. The first part is Rova Prisha, b'yediyas Musa Yisbarach, and knowledge of Hashem loftiness, uthiloisav, and his praises, achetidbak boy dveikus godel, to such a degree that he can attach himself a great attachment, v'yeda, and he knows lechavein machshavtoi. And again, this is where kind of Rabbi Sarna qualifies the statement. V'yeda, and he knows lechavein machshavtoi, to have kavona of his thoughts, b'yoisoi hoylech u'mishtamesh b'drachim ha'artziyim, when he goes and uses the ways of the land, right? Just like it was roy for a kohen, she is kaven b'oisoi shoichet hazevach, when he's shoichet hazevach or mekabel doma, and he receives the blood, or he's zorko, and he throws it on a mizbech, and it's sheyamshich b'zeh habracha mimenu yizbarach achayim v'asholom, until he brings through those actions down the bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, life and peace. V'zulas zeh, and because without this, it's impossible for him to achieve this maila. V'yishor al kol ponim chomri v'gashmi, and he will, no matter what, remain physical and tangible, kechol shar bnei odom, like other people, right? So he is saying, unless, so again, to me, this is, so to Yecheskel Sarna, this means only in the Kedusha light level. In Kedusha light level, the only way to achieve Kedusha light level is being fully immersed in all of the secrets of the world. In other words, without Kabbalah, it doesn't seem like there's any way. You don't have no hope, okay? Because you have to see the light, that hidden light, the hidden spark on everything physical that you do. And without that, seemingly you have no hope. That's how I'm reading this as standard as it applies to everything. You have to see the inner light of every physical action. And because without that, you will remain chomri v'gashmi. You will just only see the coffee cup. You won't see the abstract ideas that the coffee cup represents. The Ratzon Hashem that's in the coffee cup. You're not going to see it. You're just going to see the coffee cup. Yeah. That's what I see. Okay, but he will later qualify this because he's going to say, because based on this, toward the very last paragraph or something like that, because according to this, if I ask you, is it possible to reach a level of Kedusha if, let's say, you're in the office and you're regular balabos, can you possibly reach this level of Kedusha? I would say probably not.
Right,
Kanievsky can do it. He's sitting, meditating.
Right, but at the time, I'm not sure, I don't want to speak for Chaim, but I would assume that he didn't always sit and, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but right, but in the end, but how could you reach a level of being totally attached to God and being totally in understanding of all the Kabbalistic ideas and every possible, and this is before you learn, you have to learn all the basic halachas and the full understanding of Torah, so you could be mekayim it on every single level possible. How could you possibly accomplish this as a regular, boss who goes to work, who, it's seemingly impossible. And later, so I don't have an answer, but he's going to speak out, no, this is not true. It has to be applicable to everybody. So we'll have to reconcile this when we get there, but let's continue. But right now, again, if you were to ask me, is it possible to achieve this without being completely dedicated to this mission and nothing else? I would say, no, you only this and nothing else. Furthermore, he says, what assists in a person achieving this midah, who his boidedus is his boidedus, is what? Isolation, right? Isolation. V'haprisha haraba, and the great separatedness. Again, focus on total removal yourself from physical needs, and not only that, isolation from other people. Why? Because as a result of absence of these things that detract you from Kedusha, right? Tuchel nafshoy, his nefesh will be able to, lihisgaber yoiser, will give it more ammunition to overpower the physical kind of nature that we are, and as a result cling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's as far as things that you can use to acquire this midah. Now, obviously, he has to talk about mafsidei hamida. Mafsidei hamida. So, what's going to detract you from achieving kedusha? Heim chisaron hayidiyos hamitiyos. So, the first thing he mentions is the other way around. It's interesting, meaning in the kniyas, in the acquisition, he told you remove yourself from the physical and acquire deep knowledge of secrets, the secret knowledge of the world, right? In the things that separate you is lack of knowledge, and then v'roiva chevra im bnei adam, an overabundance of interconnectedness with other people, right? Even though a person of Kedusha has to be a part of the world, but not too much. Why? Because at the end of the day, physicality finds its friend, right? In other words, if even though I'm on a higher level and I've already accomplished so much, but by overabundance of interactions of people who are lower level than me, they will pull me down little by little. It's going to be harder for me to overcome those physical aspects of reality. V'neir u'mischazik. So it's moitzes mina. It's find its similarity and it brings it out. V'nishar ha'nefesh lechuda boy, and as a result, nefesh will remain captured by it, and will not be able to leave its confines. However, when he separates from them, levad, and he's left alone, he will prepare himself for the resting of Hashem's Kedusha. As a result, he shows that this is the way that he wants to go. So they will guide him along. ube'ezer ha'elaki, and with divine help, asher yutan loy, tizgaber nafshe boy, his soul will strengthen in him, b'tinatzach es agufnias, and he will overpower, be victorious over the physical, b'tidbak b'kedushasos baruch b'tushlam boy. He will attach himself to Kedusha of Hashem, and he will be perfected by it. So that's the end of Kedusha, really. Mm-hmm. But in that Brisa, what goes after Kedusha? There are other things that go after Kedusha. So the question is, should we, we're literally 3 paragraphs left. Almost nothing left to leave it over. I guess we'll leave it at this. We'll stop here, yeah? Because it's just too much. It's too little, really, to leave for next time, but it's too much to keep on going this time. So, okay, fine. So far again, we just reiterated the midah of the Kedusha, and then we talked about the way to, what are the things that help you acquire it, and what are the things that detract you from it, right? And again, we revisited the idea of the symmetry from the beginning to the end, and from the end to the beginning. It's not only thematically symmetrical, it's even stylistically symmetrical. All right.